the accumulation of becoming a better version of yourself.
Heartbreak is like the most painful thing you could go through.
Not that I would ever recommend getting arrested at the airport.
Why no sex then? Like, what's the reason? Harry Garside, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Of course. Well, big news. You are on Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah. Let's go.
Tell us about that. Tell us about like what you're going through at the moment. What's the sitch?
Yeah, so it's I've sort of known for about 2 months. We've only started training about 5 weeks ago. This is week 5. And it's been so much fun. Like I've done a little bit of dance in my life, like probably all up maybe about 30 sessions throughout my life. So not that much.
What type of dance was that?
So I did ballet to help with my boxing.
Okay.
But like still very much, I didn't do it frequently enough to fully have an understanding of how to do ballet. Like I can sort of just know the basic positions, that's it. But this last 5 weeks, it's been quite intense. Like I haven't had like a full-time job since I was a tradie. So doing 6 hours a day, Monday to Friday on your feet, like it's a lot of fun. Like I'm not complaining, but it's just intense and I'm really bad.
What I've always wondered, what if you and your dancing partner don't actually get along? Like would that kind of like, I don't know, for me, I would struggle with that. I would be like, I just don't ever want to go.
Yeah, because you spend so much time together. And you need that chemistry as well. And like
so important. And so important. Like you're genuinely looking into each other's eyes. You're trying to get the audience in on the performance. And like some of them are love stories. One of them's I'm a cheater. You know, I'm like trying to get her back. And I'm so sorry, you know. Like, so you're going to come. Yeah.
I was about to start.
Like you generally have to like bring the audience in on it. But it's I'm lucky my dance partner is an absolute superstar. Like
amazing.
Genuinely look at her like a sister, and she's real cool.
Do they kind of like say for example someone that they know would get along well with you? Do they kind of vet that, or do they like I've always like Jono, he's got this type of personality. Obviously Harry's a boxer. This person's going to be great for you, or I don't know.
Yeah, I had like lunch with the producers, and I think they had about 3 dancers that I could potentially be with. And then after they met me and they realized like what type of personality I am, I think they selected. I'm like, thank God. I don't know what the other people were like. They could have been great people, but they could have been losers as well. So like I'm grateful that my like me and my dance partner already. It feels like I've known her for years. Which is really
amazing.
Yeah.
What is your personality, Harry? I want to know.
I
want to know. Tell me. Yeah.
I'm curious and chaotic, mate.
Okay,
Yeah. I'm just like so curious. Like I think about like today I was just sitting here thinking about like I wonder if Jupiter or Mars or other planets had life on it at some point. Like we're on a spinning rock in the middle of nowhere and we care so much about little things. Someone cuts us off and we like stick our finger up at them, or like we have to pay taxes. Like there's just so much about this universe. I don't think we question enough, and then we start caring about the most insignificant and like meaningless things as well to sort of distract us from the fact that we're on a spinning rock making it up.
Yeah, wow.
It's so true.
Chaotic.
Yeah, because like obviously like to give us the listeners a bit about your background, like obviously country boy. I remember I saw you brought your mum to the Australian Open, and I saw that the post that you did. Harry did this amazing post about you sharing those moments with your mum, and like for me, like family is such a big thing, and do you think a lot of that comes from obviously like your growing up?
Yeah, I still sort of pinch myself. Like I've worked really hard probably over the last 20 years of my boxing career. Like I never once thought that I'd get like an opportunity to go to like the Oz Open and like get front row seats and I don't know, and to sort of bring my mum and dad or any of my family and friends. People have been there like from the start, and they've just sort of supported me. They didn't force me, they just supported me, and like I'm forever grateful. Like I remember earning $450 a week as a plumber, and like to get opportunities now where you're like going to the Oz Open, you're like, oh, what isn't that? Like I'm still sort of pinching myself. I've worked really hard for it, but like also, I don't know, just so grateful, really grateful. Yeah.
You were at the Olympics. That's incredible, like to say the least. And then you obviously had so much pressure on you for that. How much pressure was that to you, and how did you sort of, I guess, manage that pressure?
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing. I went to the last 2 and I did really well in the first one, and I think the added pressure of that,
the expectation,
like it's more and it's the expectation you put on yourself. Like don't get me wrong, like I genuinely just want to see how far like this this body can take it, you know, like
Yeah.
I'm not like the most athletically gifted human, and you know, I just want to see how like continuously put myself in environments where it's like you have to get better, and the Olympics, Paris Olympics weren't the Olympics that I hoped for, and there's many things I'm sure we can go into if you want, like many reasons as to why I think I didn't show up how I was supposed to show up, and but I've got to reflect on that, accept that, own it, you know, take extreme ownership. It's no one else's fault but my own, and if I am to be in that arena again, if I'm to go for LA or to try for a world title in professional boxing, just making sure that I'm reflecting on why I screwed up. Like something didn't go right.
Why do you feel that you did?
I think the big thing is I sat in my whole life. I felt really poor about myself. That's just the reality. I felt my self-worth was quite low, and I continuously like strived for success and strive for gold medals, sport, validation, whatever it was. I continuously search these things to try and make myself feel better about myself. But when you really sort of like, you know, pinpoint that out, it's like you realize that you're focusing so much on other people. You know, it's the validation from my parents or the validation from society, or but I sat in quarantine after the Tokyo Olympics because it was COVID with a bronze medal on my neck, and I looked in the mirror and I was still really unhappy. And I don't know, I think it planted something in my head around like nothing outside of myself will change how I feel about myself. You know, you can win a gold medal, you can have a new house, you can, you know, have a good body, or, you know, I don't think any of the accumulation of those things will make you happy. But the paradox of that is it's the person that I become on the journey to the gold medal, although I didn't get the gold medal, or the person you become on the journey to getting the good fit body, like that is where the beauty is, you know, that's where the beauty is. It's not the actual like looking the best or winning the gold medal or having the new house. It's the accumulation of becoming a better version of yourself. That's why I do it now.
It's an amazing thing, you know what I mean? Because when you think about like serotonin, so those moments create serotonin levels, they increase, and then that just kind of zaps away. So then you lose that. So, you know, you buy the house, you drive the car, and then you're like, what? Like, it's gone. That feeling's gone. And
like dopamine.
So serotonin level, obviously that type of stuff. And to be honest, Harry, I'm very, very, very similar to that. So I was really connecting like deep with that, man.
It's a good thing, though. I think it's a good thing.
It's a good thing, yeah, for sure. And it's good. It can be good and bad. It comes down to how we reflect back and how we become stronger, and then we view that. We kind of go back into it. For me personally, you know, I've evolved into a much better person because of those struggles.
Right? Well, you don't learn anything. Like if everything's always good, like where is the learning point? Or where is the struggle where you need to get better? If everything's good along the way and it's all like floaty and fine, like why would you want to make a difference, or why would you want to grow, or why would you want to change? Because you're comfortable. And that's where we talk about like constantly being uncomfortable and growing, because that's where growth happens.
It's a hard reality though, because I 100% agree, but it's like, it's almost like everything, or not everything, but a lot in our nature is to pull us in a way of comfort, right? The society we've built in Western civilization is like super comfortable, and all of our, you know, survival needs have been taken care of. And it's almost like, you know, like it's so true. The growth comes from the discomfort. It's almost like sometimes like our body forces us, you know, you think about like, have you ever heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
No.
So Maslow's hierarchy of needs is like the bottom is like survival needs, food, shelter. The next level above is just like emotional needs, being seen, being heard, being validated. And then the top, which is, I would argue, most of Western civilization is at the top. It's all about like people being morally superior. You know, people fight for these social issues so hard now because it's like most of our needs have been taken care of. Like we're so comfortable in Australia, and I think it's a beautiful thing. But then in that, it's like, I don't know, imagine what our ancestors would have went through around like searching for food or looking for shelter or things that we just don't have to worry about anymore, you know?
Yeah.
So we kind of create some struggle in this sense.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the new generation coming through is obviously gone towards that direction? Like,
yeah, it's no fault of their own, right? But it's like, it's just a society they've been built into. And myself, like I had a great upbringing. Like my parents they struggled for money, but I guess comparatively speaking to the rest of the world, which I've traveled a fair bit, it's like, you know, like I felt the struggle underneath the age of 10 because I didn't know any different. But then you started traveling, and I'm like, oh, wait, I haven't got it that bad. I was like, life's pretty good here, you know?
Yeah. Totally,
Oh, I didn't get new shoes. Oh, damn it.
Tell me about the tattoo that you forgot to your mum's.
Yes,
Tell me
we
more,
heard
please.
about
I'm
that.
dying to
How
know
does that
more.
happen?
How does that,
I
it's kind of
know.
like those when you get the Chinese like written letters.
Yeah, and you
It's
like,
you don't
it
even know
looks
what it
cool,
means.
but you don't
Yeah.
know what it means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was young.
Yeah.
So my whole family. I'm the youngest of 3 boys, and my whole family have tattoos. My brothers are covered. My dad's covered. And I was 14. We're in Bali, and I was like, "Oh, come on, mum! Like, I'll get your family. I'll get the family birthdays in
Yeah.
Roman numerals." And my parents wrote it out, and then I
Yeah.
don't know why, but I was 14, so I was really nervous the morning of getting the tattoo.
Was
I
it your
re-
first one?
First one.
Okay.
And I rewrote the letters that they did. I rewrote it because I was so nervous, and I stuffed it up when I was rewriting it. So it was my fault. Yeah.
Fair.
Mum
Have you
really
got
didn't
it
want me to get
rewritten?
it.
Have you
Where
fixed
you-
it?
No.
no, I
It's
think
in Roman
that's
numerals.
Okay, yeah.
It tells a story.
Nobody
too,
knows.
It tells
Yeah.
a story
Nobody
for
knows.
sure.
So speaking of, I guess, like struggles, vulnerabilities, I watched something on your Instagram page recently, and you spoke about how heartbreak is like the most painful thing you could go through. And for me, that was the most painful
we
thing
broke
that
up?
when we broke up.
Mm.
It was the most painful thing. So what do you think, and why do you think heartbreak is the most painful thing, especially given the industry that you're in, what you do, why is heartbreak to you the most painful thing you've experienced?
I feel it's I can only speak from my own reality, but like I think the story that I guess I've taken on through a lot of my life, and I think it's been a massive driver as to why I've wanted success so bad, is, you know, from a young age, and I don't know why, because my parents are really good people, right? But like I've internalized the thought, and I think I've believed the thought quite strongly around, like I never really thought that I was lovable. And I think when I finally sort of take down the guard and I allow someone in really close to your heart, and then I guess, you know, sometimes it's a fault of my own, or sometimes this relationship just doesn't work, you're not compatible. But I think for me, it just it highlights, or it affirms the story that I've already believed, that maybe I'm not lovable, and I think that's why it hurts, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I've been seeing a psychologist for a long time, and I've done a number of other modalities to try and understand myself better. And, but yeah, I think it just really reaffirms that, like, maybe that story might be true, right? And it's like, I know there's times where it's like I can combat that thought, but there's absolutely times, that's why I think it hurts so much. It just affirms that, like, you know, like you let someone into your weird, messed up world, and you both sort of like hold each other in vulnerability and this connection, and like no love, no friendship, no family, I don't get as connected as a partner. I think it's so beautiful. It's the best thing about life, right? That's why we're such, you know, compatible social beings who love to mate and, you know, share life together. But, you know, when it doesn't work, I don't know if I can swear, fuck, it hurts.
No,
Yeah.
it does.
No, it does.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
It does, eh?
Yeah.
You know, I remember we broke up. Obviously, I turned to a lot of alcohol, and I went more of that route, and obviously lost myself and lost the person that I was, because I don't know, like I felt lonely, and it was a tough period in my time, and I obviously talk about it a lot in the book that I wrote, and how I overcame that, and that was through you know, like just accepting that I feel like I've failed, and I learned from that failure rather than treating like a failure. I was like, oh, this is the end.
Yeah.
And that obviously helped me become a much better person. But yeah, I definitely feel like heartbreak it's hard. Like you can go different directions with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about, I guess, your perception. Like, you know, when you do experience something that is bad, your perception on that, depending on your mood, how tired you are, like that all affects a lot of what you perceive, right? So even in the daily, like, you know, whatever you're doing, when you talked about someone who was just like giving you the finger because of, you know, road rage, obviously that person's going through something. You got to like sort of have that compassion to be like, that's not me. Like, that's not my fault. That's not because of me. That's something that person is going through.
It's hard to do, though.
It is.
I completely agree.
Absolutely.
It's so hard to do,
Absolutely.
right?
And it
You know,
depends
fuck
where
that
you're
guy.
at. Yeah.
It's like following him home. No.
Yeah. You get out of the car.
I've seen someone get out of the car. Right?
You've gotten out of the car before.
I must admit, I've gotten out of the car.
Just throwing him under the bus.
Yeah,
Love
right.
it.
No, I did get out. It's one of those things, you know. But I don't know. Maybe I'm hot-tempered, being Colombian.
Yeah, it's like Colombian blood.
It's just blaming on
Spicy blood.
But no, it's awesome, Hey, so obviously, with all your training, like, what's your nutrition like at the moment? Do you have to be like pretty like 100% with the Dancing with the Stars and all that?
Yeah, like what's the training for Dancing with the Stars like
can you
compared
show me a little bit now or no?
Yeah, show us, Harry.
Mate,
Show me a
my
little
hips.
bit of salsa.
Mate, there's
Give
not
us
like the
a-
hips are
I
very
saw you
stiff.
move.
I saw the hips are very
They're
stiff.
loose. They're loosed enough.
They're getting better. They're getting better. You should have sent me 5 weeks ago. They were terrible.
Yeah.
Let's hope it helps me in the bedroom. It's good though.
They
like-
say it helps. They
yeah,
say it
yeah. I
helps.
hope so. I hope so.
You
But
can't
it's-
just be one motion. They
Yeah,
say.
yeah. It's
So-
actually so much fun though. Like it's so much fun
Yeah.
getting taught how to dance, and I'm still obviously trying to maintain my my fitness outside of dance too. Like obviously
Yeah, I've seen
being
your-
an athlete,
I've
yeah,
seen
you
your
always got to
videos,
stay
yeah,
active
mate.
and
Yeah.
but so good. Like, but when it comes to like nutrition, I think over time you sort of just works. You find out what works for you, and that's the thing I love about diets is like what works for me might not work for you, and our
Correct,
bodies
correct.
are all so different and unique. And I think just through time and through experience and through trying diets and different things, like certain
Yeah.
things work for me and certain
I
things
agree,
don't.
yeah,
So I'm not that strict on it, which is nice. Like I
Mm.
sort of just like I never really mess around with my food, and I don't sort of eat the sweet treat that much. I would say like more often than not, I'm just choosing the better option that I think fuels my body better, which is nice.
Yeah.
Like I'm not so people are so anal
Yeah,
about it,
yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
like, it
Like
just
do
sounds
what
intense.
you feel, right? Like that's like me
I
too.
agree.
Like if I feel like a smoothie bowl, if I feel like a
Mm.
burger, I'm gonna reach for it because
How good are
it's what you
burgers?
feel.
Oh,
Oh,
damn.
I'm
burgers.
I'm a sucker for them.
Yeah.
Sucker for hot
Fries,
chips,
yeah,
hot chips,
fries, hot chips.
hot chips all day.
Yeah.
I remember we spoke in Melbourne, and you said you were doing sober, and you had you kind of like. I remember you talked about a situation that things were kind of thing, and you just kind of ran out and you went and just like escaped the situation. Are you still going strong with the sober side?
Yeah. So I'm doing
How
the
many
whole
days now?
whole year sober. So
Right.
well, this is I don't know a month and a half or something like that, and I it's like I did 7 months last year prior to the Olympics, so I don't think the actual challenge will be that hard. But I'm doing even like starting from March, 6 months no sex.
Wow.
Just I don't know. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
the last 2 years for myself, I don't know. I've had some amazing moments, some really, really good
Yeah.
moments, but I just feel like I've gone backwards in a few key areas in my life. And it's like, if you want different, be different, act different, and see what happens.
I
Like,
love
Yeah.
that.
this could be the biggest waste of time.
No, really.
Or it
no.
could be,
I think it's.
you know?
I wouldn't say it's a waste of time. I think setting those putting those things out there. I think that's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
And grow. When you said that, I'm like, man, like there's so much growth in Harry Garside. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like that's massive.
Why
growth.
no sex though? Like what's the reasoning behind
I think it comes down to what I was talking about before, kind of around, I think often outside, to make myself feel better about myself, I focus on other things outside of myself. And that could be through success, that
Yep.
could be through fame, that could be through validation, but it also could be through sex.
Yeah.
Or a substance, like it's just like things outside of yourself making you feel better about yourself. So I think this year for me is just like a big year of like learning to be single and like learning to fill my own cup up. Like,
Yeah.
and then I think when I can do that, I've never learned how to do it.
Yeah.
And it's like, if I can sort of learn that behavior by the end of the year, then I think going into next year, I don't know, I'm hoping to, before I'm 30, finding a partner and ideally kids before 35, like that
Yeah.
is the hope. And
Mm.
who knows if it goes to plan, but
Yeah.
I hope so, right?
Yeah.
You got to kind of do the actions to get to that point.
Exactly. And I actually can relate to that because I feel like we had a very codependent relationship for a very long time. And when I finally was by myself and able to just be with myself and actually be comfortable in my own space and actually want my own space, I think that's when you actually realize what your values are, what you stand for, what you believe in, and it makes you stronger as a person because you're like, I'm not gonna make my values lesser than what they are because I'm always going to stick to them. So when you're solid in that, I feel like there's no breaking you.
Yeah, it's good
Like
that you
big
say
time.
that, but like I think like with all the training, obviously you were talking to someone, you developed those skills, and not, like a lot of people ain't gonna have that installed into their brain. They're not gonna think like that, So your response there was great, but I'm like, for someone like me, there's no way I'm gonna think like that. I'd be
Yeah, everyone's
do you know
different.
what I mean?
Everyone's journey is different
yeah.
though.
Like we were
So-
together 15 years. 15
Yeah,
years,
wow.
married for 3.
Yeah.
And then I remember you saying, obviously in the first you switched off out of the relationship 2 years
Yes,
ago.
I emotionally switched off.
Rather
Yeah.
than just breaking up,
Yeah.
and-
So it was me not understanding myself.
Mm.
I had no idea who I was without you.
Mm.
and I had no idea how it would be like. Like I didn't want to take that leap or that jump because I was scared, obviously. So it takes like a catastrophic event for you to realize, okay, I need to change.
Yeah.
Or change needs to happen.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, like when has there been like one of the most vulnerable moments of your life where you've felt like you've needed to make a change, or a catastrophic event that happened?
Yeah, there's been, I think there's like a number of things. I think there's been family issues, there's been, you know, relationship breakups, there's been, I don't know, I think I can sort of recognize inside myself, I go through like little cycles or seasons almost, you know, and yeah, like I think we all have the depths of hell sometimes, and sometimes we've created it ourselves, or we self-sabotage our reality so we end up in the mud, or other times we're just thrown in it, right? But there's been a number of them, and I think, you know, post Paris was pretty hard. I got arrested a couple of years ago. That was pretty challenging.
Okay.
But also like zoom out far enough, they're almost the greatest things to ever happen to you in some weird way, right?
Yeah,
Just when you're in
absolutely.
it, like it just sucks, but you get through it and you're like, oh wow, like we can get through things that are really difficult, you know?
Yeah, like in that moment, you're so like you're feeling the pain, and I think it's important to feel the pain, right? To feel that pain, to live in it, to actually understand what you're going through mentally, physically, all of those cues, and then to get over it, you're kind of like, wow, like as a human, I got through the toughest moment of my life. Nothing else can kind of shatter me.
What's that? I think it's David Goggins says, "Callous the mind."
Oh yeah.
It's almost like it almost does, right?
Yeah,
like
it
it's like a really, you know, tough moment, but you actually do build the muscle of like resilience in your brain, which is something that I don't think Western civilization, for no fault of like young people, but like a lot of young people, because it's just like life is quite good, you know, like, you know, for most people in Australia, like it's like I don't think a lot of people have the resilience, because it's just like there's not many moments for them to build it, you know. So it's up to us as individuals when we get to older and, you know, do hard sessions, or like I don't know, do public speaking, or do something that just like genuinely shakes up your world a little bit, you know. It makes you just like a little bit tense, and then you push through and you're like, oh wow, I can do that.
Gives you like a challenge.
Yeah.
Sort of beat.
Yeah, I do feel like people kind of just
stay comfortable.
Yeah, it's too comfortable, and you know, but hey, at the end of the day, not to all those 1%ers like yourself, you know, they achieve those great things, that are able to grow and you know, get outside that comfort zone.
Yeah.
Like ourselves in business, you know, I mean, when we first made this place, it was a massive risk for us. We kind of took that risk to build this gym, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. What drives you, Harry? Like, what drives you through, or wanting to
be better?
Even your career or personally, what drives you through everything?
I think with most things that drive people, I can only recognize inside myself, but is there's coexisting realities. So there's like a really positive thing that drives me around, like genuinely finding out how far I can take this, you know. I've been given a body, and we can't choose what we're given, but like I've been given something, and just send it as far as you can, and just see your potential. That could be physical, that could be mental, that could be emotional. See how far you can take it. So that's the positive side. And then of course there's also a negative driver around, like, as I mentioned a few times, like getting people's attention and getting my parents more so. But I think my parents now have like probably moved more to like society at large. But I don't know. I think I wrote a poem about this recently, and it was around like would I still care if I walked down the street and no one looked at me and recognized me? Would I care? You know, like how would I feel? Because I think I cared so much a long time. Whereas like I do feel, it's easy to say it when I'm still in it, but I do feel like I've got to the point where it's like I don't care. I don't think I need that anymore. I think I got a taste of it, and I realized like I still slept alone most nights, or I still was lonely, you know. It didn't change anything about how I felt about myself. So it comes down to that thing around like, you know, you focus so hard on what other people think about you, but you know, it's only you who can make you feel different about yourself. And it's still very nice. Don't get me wrong. There's some days we wake up and we feel shit about ourselves and we don't feel good. Like that's just a reality. Like we're not always on.
I totally agree. Do you feel like a lot of people started wanting to be friends with you because of
who you were or what you were doing?
Yeah, because I find that a lot.
Yeah. No, I wrote something about that too. I think it was around like, people always say like, be careful like when times are tough and you sort of see who's around you, right? But also the flip side of that, when times are good, see who comes knocking on the door going, hey, what's going on, brother? Like,
Yeah.
you know, just like be mindful of that too. Like I think when doors started opening up after Tokyo, I was like a young kid. I was like 23, going like, what the hell? You know, like
Got
I bought
all these friends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I bought this like, oh, listen, man, like go to this party's fun.
Yeah.
But like I think I just realized like even in those times when things are going really good, just be really mindful around who you're letting into that. And that's why I love like still very much mates with the boys I went to school with and a lot of people who have been there for a long time. And it's like they humble me every time I'm with them. They take the piss out of me, you know, never take yourself too seriously. And I like that. Like I'm no different to what I was when I was a kid. I've grown, I'm evolved, but I'm also still that young kid as well who just like loves to be around my mates. And, you know, you can laugh, joke, say things that are silly and I like that, you know, while also still wanting to grow and evolve. I think that's important.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I love that. I love how like you've got so much gratitude. Like, you know, from what you've experienced and what you've achieved, like having that gratitude is hard to maintain. Like even us, for example, we sometimes forget everything that we've done and everything that we've built. So what like kind of like keeps you grounded? What keeps you humble?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it comes down to that like low self-worth, right? But it's like a good thing, right? Like it's like that I keep thinking about this recently, so I keep mentioning it, but coexisting realities. Like I can recognize inside myself that there's someone who believes he can take over the world, but then there's also someone who believes he's no more important than like rubbish on the ground. So it's like just like that coexisting reality. I think it naturally just keeps me grounded. Like when
to explain that, like so you are one person, but it could have been one reality. And then there's another reality that you're actually living.
Yeah, it's almost like I'm in the middle, I'm a center ground, and then there's the two in my body, right, functioning. And it's like I float between both of them, right? And it's like there's a light wolf, there's a dark wolf inside of you, and the one that's the loudest is the one that you feed the most. And you can never get rid of both wolves, unfortunately.
So like a good angel, bad angel.
Of course, yeah. And it's a good thing. Like I can recognize that when someone gives me a compliment, there's always like a little voice going, you're not as good as they think you are, which is... It sounds bad. A lot of people look at me funny when I say that, but it's like, no, that keeps me grounded. It makes me realize, hey, I'm no more important than a homeless man on the side of a street, or I'm also no more important than like the most, I don't know, favored man in society, right? Like that we sort of put up on these pedestals. Like we're no different. Like it's only our perception of who we think we are. Like, yeah. So they're both in me, right?
I feel it, man. Are you like, this might be like super random question, but are you scared of death? Are you scared of going?
When I've used substance, many times throughout my life, and I never thought that I cared about death. But every time I've been close to like, oh, I've taken it too far, I have this massive fear, and I really reflected on that, and I was like, what is that? I think I'm terrified to die because it's like I don't think I've fully lived all that I could be, you know, and I'm still going. I want more, you know. Like if I died tomorrow, like I've lived a really good life up until this point, but like fucking earth, I'm scared to die. Like there's so much more living to do. Like I could be a chef if I want to be. I could meditate the rest of my life.
We could see that.
You know, I could be a junkie if I want to, you know, just like experience all these different varieties.
I'll see you next
There's so many different things you could do. You know? I'm loving my reality, but there is genuinely so much living that I don't think we do because we focus so hard on a job, and that's 20 years, and it's like that's 1% of what the earth has to offer, right? I don't know.
On this podcast, obviously, we like to talk about good and the bad. Obviously, the allegations with the ex, and that took you through a dark time. You know, for me personally, if I was going through that, I would, man, it'd be a tough time for me personally. And like I said, I've had so many weak moments in my life that I just don't even know what I'll do. Can you tell me, you know, obviously your journey through that?
Yeah, it's just like any hard time. It's always really tough. But I think prior to that moment, it's almost like I've been thinking about this a fair bit. Like most ancient cultures, I love history. Most ancient cultures have like a coming of age moment where it's like men would go out and do their thing, and women would have a ceremony as well when they would get their first bleed, or there would be like a ceremonial thing of coming to age. And I think we've lost that in Western civilization. And not that I would ever recommend getting arrested at the airport, but it was a moment in my life where it's like I genuinely had to stand up for myself and you know, have my own back in that. And you know, I was forced into the mud, but it's like, as I said, like I genuinely do think it was my coming of age moment, you know.
Did you know that you were going to get arrested then, or
No.
No. Okay. So you just
Okay.
wow. So it was all like
Wow.
wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I had no idea. So like the story was, I was on a TV show.
Celebrity Get Me Out of Here.
Yeah, I'm a celebrity. Get me
Oh,
out of
yeah.
here
I
in
do
South
recall
Africa,
that,
and
yeah.
then come back on that flight and get arrested at the airport. And I don't know, just like that next month, the charges were on me, and then they eventually got dropped. But it was a really intense moment, and even like I don't know what it would be like as I'm no father, but like just to see what my parents also had to go through as well.
Yeah.
Like my mum was going through breast cancer treatment at the time, and it was an intense time for them. But I also think because they're not in the public eye, they haven't had any experience with that. Like it's almost like I had to parent my parents through that, which was like a tough but also beautiful thing. It was like a really nice moment where, as I said, I had to step up and I don't know, be a man. I'm not a little boy anymore,
That's for sure.
you know. And it sucked. It was a really hard time, but it was also like it made me in some weird way, and I'm forever grateful for that situation, right? Like I genuinely am. Like I learned so much from that, and I don't know. I could always look myself in the mirror and be proud of the man that looks back at me, and I think that's what got me through. Like if I had no evidence, if I got found guilty, or I don't know, if the outcome was different, I would be like I can look myself in the mirror and I'm okay. So yeah, that's all that matters, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at that, man.
What was the key thing or key takeaway from that you took, I guess?
That's a good question. I think the key is just I don't know, just really sort of like not caring too much. It's hard because I still do care, but not caring as much about what people think. You know? I never really, you know, people talk about panic attacks or anxiety attacks, and I never really had one. I've always had like a relatively strong mind, and I had one throughout that process, which is like I've never experienced it before. So like before that, I couldn't really give other people proper empathy, because I'd like never really experienced it, right? But then I went through a moment where I genuinely had one, and it was almost like in that what I realized that I was having that because I was so focused on what other people were thinking about me. And I think what I mentioned before around like being able to look yourself in the mirror, knowing exactly what happens. And I'm brutally honest with myself. If I screw up, like I'll own it. You know, I stuffed up there. And but yeah, as I said, I could look myself in the mirror, and I've collected enough evidence in my life to know that I'm not a perfect guy, but I'm not a bad guy. So and then in that, I had myself, and it was actually a beautiful moment. I was doing a breathwork experience. I love breathwork. And it was like a month after the charges were dropped. I was like moving on with my life, but still very much in the hurt. And I was doing a breathwork experience, and people talk about being bird's eye view of themselves, and it's never happened to me before. And I was bird's eye view of myself in this experience, of course. And I was holding my younger self, which I think is what, so if you do any self-growth or self-improvement, that's all it is learning to parent that young kid inside themselves that didn't get all their needs met, because no parent's perfect, right? And I had that moment where it's like I was holding my younger self, which was a really beautiful full circle moment. I finally, as a 26-year-old man, had my younger self. Great.
I've had that experience before, where I've gone back. I've done a lot of work as well with a therapist, and I've gone back to a point, and I can pinpoint it specifically, where I went to hug my younger self, to like, you know, make her know that it's okay. And that moment was when I was like at school. I was on the school bus. I didn't catch the school bus because I lived like literally next door to my school, but I used to go on it because all my friends were. And I was dating, you know, the football player, the star football player of the boys' school, and he had cheated on me, like numerous amounts of girls. And everyone knew except me. I was in denial. I just thought it would never happen to me, whatever. And that trauma, because I never addressed it or never went back to that space, I always carried through with me as an adult, in the sense of if someone knew something that I didn't know about, I would always feel this like, you don't know what it is, but you're like, oh, that doesn't feel right. So I would always want to know, and I would always want to control situations and be in control. So until I addressed that moment and go back and uncover that that's something that I carried throughout my life, I couldn't move forward or grow from that experience.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. Is there a moment that you can know?
To be honest, no. That's why I'm like so intrigued about hearing both your stories. You know what I mean? Now, this is great. This is why I like doing this, because like now I'm going to go home and try to reflect back on my own, where I can kind of feel that. So we're doing a bit of that today, So no, thanks guys for sharing that too. It's like I'm a big teddy there, but I'm soft.
He's a very
soft and,
emotional guy.
To be honest, a bit of a teary there. I'm not gonna lie, and it's okay to cry too. But yeah, definitely. And also, I love how you do the nails. I love that. Tell us a bit more about
challenging the gender
Yeah.
norms.
Yeah, I just I think I don't know if I mentioned it on camera or off camera, but I generally just think we're on a spinning rock in the middle of nowhere, and I think we get born and we're just told from a young age about how to act and how to live. And I grew up in a very masculine environment, and I felt very soft. I have two older brothers, and they're all blokey, and I always sort of get bullied for crying more or just being softer. And I think that's partially the reason why I started boxing, was to try and search for my manhood and search for respect. And I'm really grateful I started it, because I did build that through time. But my nature, I think, is quite soft. I always connect better to females, and I just think like we're born into a body and we're continuously told about how to live when no one knows. No one knows why we're here. No one knows what to do. And yes, there might be things that as animals that maybe we are more inclined to do, but if there's a young girl out there who wants to do something that's more masculine or manly, go do it. If that's your calling, like if that's genuinely pure to you and you have interest in it, go do it. Or if there's a young boy who is in the same boat but wants to do something that's more stereotypically girly, go do it. As long as it's coming from like a pure place or in your heart, or there's a calling, like I think that's all we should do as humans, right? And that's, if I can do something that's just like a boxer with a mullet and shit tattoos, like, just like,
come on, eh?
They're really good tattoos.
Nice.
They're really good. But like, if I can do something that's just like so, I'm just not supposed to do that. And there's people have such a fuss about it. It's like, mate, there's people starving in the world, and you care about what I'm doing. Like, I'm not generally hurting anyone. Like, man, I don't know. People are just strange.
How do you handle that backlash?
I used to care heaps.
Yeah.
I used to care heaps. I used to read the comments and start typing back going, but now I just don't do it anymore. And it comes down to what you said before around like trying to have empathy for that person in the car, who just realizing that I've realized something. There was a guy who was like, you attention-seeking little dog or something like that, wrote something on my Facebook, and maybe that's true. Maybe I am an attention-seeker. I don't know. Maybe that is true. So there might be a valid point. But I clicked on his profile, and he had tattoos all over his face. And I'm thinking, this is just a projection of what's going on inside of himself, right? And it sort of made me realize that, like, when you realize that people aren't at war with you, they're at war with themselves a lot of the time, and it is a projection, then, I don't know, you have a lot more empathy and, like, compassion and, those people. And maybe, I'm not the beacon of truth. I try and move always with pureness and authenticity, but I don't always get it right. And maybe those people who critique me, maybe they could be right. So I don't always just like discredit them or disregard them. I try and take it on, but don't let it impact me too much, but just try and reflect on, maybe I'm not right now. I'm not always right, that's for sure. Yeah.
So on this podcast, I actually do this with a lot of my friends these days, just to really understand and break down our weeks or months. It's like our high moment of the week or month. But today, obviously with yourself, we're going to go high moment of the week, low moment of the week. And we call it the Castano,
which is a surprise, something funny, something interesting that's happened to you during the week, just to let us reflect.
What's your high of the week, Harry?
I'll start with low first, so I can sort of finish with the happiness.
Okay, nice.
My low.
That's very good.
To be honest, I've had... I don't know, there has to be a low. I just feel like I haven't spoken to my family as much this week. Yeah, I think, life happens and I live in a different state. But yeah, that's like, you sort of just realize that like naturally life happens and you sort of move further and further away from your family and friends. But also as well, like, I know they're always in my corner, but that's probably a low. Like I probably should call mum and dad a bit more, and every time you see them, you realize, oh shit, they're getting old. Like, fuck, you guys are old. I hope they don't listen to this. The high, I think, I don't know, I've had a really good start to the year personally. I always can recognize inside myself that I have really high highs and really low lows. I'm like a bit of an extremist, that's why I'm doing the 6 months no sex, or like I'll go, 12 months no coffee. Like I just, I just like that. Yeah, I can't do that. No. I sometimes I do weird stuff like that. Like, so I think, yeah, I've just had a really good start to the year, and I think I've just like really found some rhythm. I've got daily, weekly, monthly goals that I'm upholding really well so far, and it's only a month and a half into the year, but it's been a good month and a half. So I just really felt
Amazing.
it this week. The funny part of my week, my dance partner on a lift, she farted in my face.
Jono's used to that.
And it's like the
Jono
first
can
time.
relate.
Smell good. It smelled good.
Oh, I did actually. I got pink eye the next day. She's a legend, but like we're not at that point yet. We're like that close, and then she was like, "Did you just fart?" She's like, "Yep." I'm like, "Beautiful. We just moved on past that stage, didn't we?"
Wow.
So good. That's good.
Okay.
That's gold. I like that. What about you, Amy?
Okay, I'm gonna do low as well.
I actually really, really like that.
I can relate to your low because my parents live like 7 minutes from here and I barely see them. I definitely need to, like, life takes over, busy, doing the thing. And I think I sometimes get into my head about like, you know, I've got to live my life. I got to do what I can do to the most of my ability because they put me here in order to do that, right? So I want to make them proud. But then the, I guess, thing that you let go of is the fact that you actually spend time with them. So yes, maybe after here I might go and drive past.
Have you
and-
seen that graph where it's
I
like
think you should.
all the time you spend with your family, it's like to 21, and then it just drops
Yes.
drastically. Like, oh my god, it's like
Yeah.
really
That's
confronting.
great.
when
Yeah,
you just-
it
I haven't
is.
seen it, eh? What
Yeah.
about your high?
My high. Okay.
Okay.
So I don't make many girlfriends because I like align more with masculine energy. So I invited a girlfriend to train with me, which is you know something
So good.
outside of my comfort zone. I don't usually do that, so that was definitely a high for me to be able to connect with another female.
Nice.
Yeah,
And you, what about random?
something random.
Funny, interesting.
What did I see? Ollie got a haircut today.
Oh.
I mean, that's random. That's my dog. He got a haircut today. That's random.
Was it a new haircut?
It was a
or-
new haircut. He looks fresh.
He looks handsome.
Straight out of the salon.
Handsome.
Okay.
What about yours? What's your high?
I think.
Let's start with the
I'll
low.
start with my low. I think
Yeah.
for me, low would be not putting aside enough time to focus on myself, and I've let external stuff take over my life for like work, when I should be focusing on myself. Because when I focus on myself, you get the best version of me, you know. Or else you just get the normal Jono that's just like work, and when that person's out there, like I restrict all my mates from actually seeing me because all I focus is business. I restrict my family from seeing me, and it's a lonely place, you know. It's a very lonely place, and this week's been like that. It's been, you know, a lot of work. High moments would have to be, I think, just kind of, you know, really spending a lot of time with my daughter. Got to spend a lot of getting to it was good to spend a lot of time with my daughter this week. Which has been good.
Yeah.
Interesting moment this week, or funny.
Something.
No fighting this week for me.
No one farted in your face.
No one farted in my face. So.
Damn it. Next week.
Never
Next
too
week.
late.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never too late.
Maybe tonight. I don't know. I guess interesting would have to be. I guess just figuring out like how to be single again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd probably say that would be the thing. Yeah, how to actually be single again. Because it's like it's an interesting place these days, being single.
On the dating apps.
On the dating. Yeah. Anyways,
Yeah,
Story for another
we
day.
won't
That's
get into
story,
that. We won't
But
get
anyways,
into that.
that's for me. Interesting.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah, cool. Awesome.
Love it.
Well, thank you, Harry. Thanks
man.
for
Thanks
coming
heaps,
on.
guys.
We really loved hearing all about your stories, and thank you for being so open and vulnerable with us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you.
we need a hug after.
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
that's
cute.